Hey, what's up, yo? It's Nokachu coming at you with another haul video. First of all, as always, I want to thank everyone who has taken their time to watch my video and leave a comment. I'm going to start off by showing how I kind of file my comics. So I will take copies of logos from various titles and print them on cardstock. This is thicker paper, probably 110 weight or 120 weight. And I cut these out so that they fit on the end of a white long box so that I know what's in that box. If you follow what I'm saying. So this is, and then I'll put the emblem, and then like for Batman, this is Detective Comics, and this is, when you cut this out, is about the size of the top of the box. And so then I'll glue stick that on the top, and I'll put the Batman emblem on the bottom. And so like for like Batgirl, Catwoman, what have you, I'll put that on there. And I'll use different things for for various titles. I'll put this at the top, and then I'll put a different image on the bottom. So like this is Venom. I'll do the Green Lantern and Flash. For Catwoman, since there's so many, as they get more volumes to kind of signify the run. I have the entire run of Catwoman volume, I think it's volume 2, the one where Adam Hughes does covers 50 through 83. And so I'll put Adam Hughes image on the part of the box that's just below the handle, and then on the top of the top, so I know what top goes to the box. I'll put one of these emblems on there. So like this is for Justice League, and so like for Green Lantern, that would be cut out and be put on the end of the box, and then Green Lantern itself would be on the top of the box, right? Same here for like Batgirl and the Bat emblem, Flash and Spider-Man. And so that's just something that I kind of do to organize my titles, because, I'll buy, boxes, and then I'll handwrite them. And I used to handwrite what was in each box, like the title on the, in pencil on the box. But it's so much easier to be able to see that on the box and just boom, go right to the comic. And they really don't make the decorative boxes for long boxes, and I have a lot of long boxes of comics, and so this is how I do it. And sometimes and the reason why I do a different emblem on the bottom versus the top is like if I have maybe Firestorm, for example, is close to Flash, so if it's kind of carries over and it doesn't fill a whole box of Flash, and I have some other titles intertwined in there, I can add smaller emblems to the box to know what's in that box, if you're following what I'm saying. So I just thought I'd start off with that. All right, so let's get to these books. A lot of these books are, again, from that 30-cent and 50-cent sale that I've mentioned in my last two haul videos. Between the two sales, I probably bought over 1,000 books. No, I know I bought over 1,000 books because I bought 3 long boxes and 1 short box full. So, Amazing Spider-Man 359. I didn't have that title, that comic. Again, Mark Bagley wasn't my favorite artist at the time, and so I didn't get a lot of the 300 random issues I'd pick up here and there. But I didn't have a lot of those issues. So for 50 cent was that book, I picked it up. I picked this book up because it was in high grade. I have multiple copies of this, but it's the last issue of Volume 1 of Marvel Team Up. I want to say that's Barry Windsor Smith cover art. I'm not sure. I think it is. I don't think he did the interior, but this is the last issue of Marvel Team Up, so I bought that. I didn't think I had this annual part 2 of Shattershot of X-Men, so I bought that for, it was either 30 cent or 50 cent. As I may have said before, all these books are either in near mint unless I say otherwise. And if I can remember if they're 30 or 50 cent, I'll mention it, but they were either 30 or 50 cent. So I didn't have this copy of All New Wolverine number 18. As I mentioned before, I'm trying to get all of the issues of Monstrous, and this is number 5. Got that for 50 cent. I get this comic here, just because I thought it was a cool cover. It was in near mint condition. It's the Loser Special number 1. For 50 cent, I thought that was a great deal. Mockingbird number 1, first appearance of Red Widow. This has a little bit of heat on it. I'm sure it will continue to rise in value as the Black Widow movie becomes more imminent and more details come out if Red Widow is truly in it. I think in my last video I said the 16-page comic preview was in New Teen Titans for Blue Devil. It was actually in Fury of Firestorm, and this is issue number 24, first appearance of Blue Devil. This is in near mint. I have multiple copies of that. Now, when I went to the actually, let me go ahead and show these. Got this. This is a 1 in 10 variant of Donald Duck and Friends by Boom, cover C. Get that for it was 30 cent or 50 cent. I can't remember for this one. And I got the selfie variant for Green Lantern with Kilowog number 34 for 30 cent. First appearance of Sonic the Hedgehog in comics, number 33 of Justice League Europe. I think Sonic the Hedgehog is in more other comic titles, but this is the one for some reason that people seek for Sonic Hedgehog's first appearance. Got another copy of Green Arrow number 24, which is the first appearance of John Deagle in comics. He's a character from the TV series. These next issues, when I go to these sales, it's interesting, they count the comics. But if multiple issues are in a bag, they still count the comic as one. And so these comics were all in near mint condition, and there were 2 in a bag, which I didn't realize at first. And but when I picked it out of the bag, picked it up, and then I flipped it over, the other issue was on the back side of the comic, and I was like, oh well, that's great. And I didn't know they were only going to charge me for one, but they did. And so and these were all in near mint condition. This is a 12-issue limited series of the Eternals. So essentially I got this for 15 cents. Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. They were all together. I don't know if 11 and 12 were there. I couldn't find them. You know, a lot of times during these type of sales, comics will be moved around. You know, there a lot of times the comics are not sorted by title. They're just randomly comics everywhere. And what happens is that the store buys a collection, and then they set it. They pick out what key issues that they want to sell on their wall, and then everything else goes to the dollar bin. And so I go there. I go to this particular shop probably once a month because they get collections all of the time. And so, and this was a new collection. And then the only sorting I'd say they do is that they will put a sign on the boxes that this collection was obtained on X date. But again, people will pick books up and then they will just leave them on top of the boxes, and then they just get stuck back in a random box by the staff if they're not purchased at the end of the day. So I don't know if 11 and 12 were in a different box, but I couldn't find them. I mean, there are literally thousands of boxes of dollar bins. So I am trying to complete Classic X-Men, the early run that reprints the Chris Claremont, John Byrne run. That actually from John Size X-Men up through the John Byrne run. And so I'm nearly complete with that, and also try to collect all of the 25th anniversary border comics of Marvel in that year. And this is Classic X-Men number 3, which reprints number 95. Now, in the early issues of Classic X-Men, this is an Arthur Adams cover, which I really like Arthur Adams. I do. I like his artwork. I've been a big fan of his. I've got a print by him, which one day I may show. It's just it's a black and white print. I don't actually think it ever made it to an actual comic cover, or I'm not aware of it. But and maybe he just did it for fun. I bought it off his website. But I actually think the comic covers that Dave Cockrum did of the Uncanny X-Men at this time are better than Arthur Adams for the most part. But this reprints issue number 95, number 3. Number 4 is 96. And I think a lot of times you can figure out which issue they're reprinting because it's close. But this is issue number 97, which, I think the Uncanny X-Men cover is so much better than this one. No offense to Dave. No offense to Arthur Adams. This reprints issue 99. And number 8 was 100. Oh, I think I lost my train of thought of what I was going to say. But the early issues of Classic X-Men actually has new material in these books. And so I'm not sure why there's not a lot of mention about that on the web, or even in price guides or on eBay. But John Bolton, for the most part, did, probably in every issue of these early classic X-Men, there's at least 6 or 7 pages, full pages of new material that's in these issues. And it's kind of like intertwined with the story at that time. I'll have to find one and kind of show it in one issue when I have it open. I don't like to take the tape off the Mylars because it kind of can mess it up. But you know, I know there's one issue where Mr. Sinister is actually mentioned in the background by John Bolton. So I thought, you know, so again, I'm not sure why there's not more hype to it or more interest in it, but there's definitely new material in there. Here's another example: Arthur Adams cover number 13. This reprints Uncanny X-Men 105. Now, the cover is okay, but I do think that the original cover by Cockrum is much better. Here's issue number 16, which I'm sure you can see the similarity to issue 109, I believe, is where Vindicator is coming out of the ground. That was a John Byrne issue. But again, I got all those for 30 cents, so I thought that was a decent deal. I'm always buying these comics because I don't really know what issues I have. I know that's sad to say, but Brightest Day, I haven't taken the time to look up to see how long this series ran. But if I see a comic that I'm not sure if I have or not, I pick the issue up. 30 cents. It's a nice purple cover. It's in near mint. Here's a comic I did not know existed, and that is a great Art Germ cover for Justice League Rise and Fall special with Green Arrow. Now, what's interesting is that this comic sell for 30 cents. I mean, they put their surplus back issues in there also, and they can be recent issues. Now, but this was a Matina variant, which I had already, but for 30 cents in near mint condition, I decided, well, why not have another copy, right? Similar to this issue here, Old Man Hawkeye number 8, I didn't have. I got a few of the issues 1 through 4 or 5, but then I started noticing I could find the new issues in dollar bins, so I stopped pulling them in my subscription service because I figured I could find it for cheap, and sure enough, I found this for 30 cents. Flash number 4, I was missing 30 cents. This is my second copy of New Warriors number 2, and I didn't have number 3. Sometimes for these series, I don't want to collect the whole series, but I might get the first 4 or 5 issues, and maybe down the line, if I ever start selling my comics, you know, I'd put them in a lot, and it'd be maybe easier to sell. Justice League number 50, I had already, but for 30 cents in a near mint, $5.99 comic, I said, why not have an extra copy? Here's a Milestone imprint from DC, number 1, Icon, that is still polybagged, that has the trading card. Whoops. Whoa. I hate that. Icon number 1. Bought this comic here solely for the fact that it was a near mint. It was 30 cents, and it's issue number 1 of Arak, Son of Thunder. Same for this. It's what the Number one is kind of like a spoof on, I don't know if it's a spoof on What If or not, but I thought it was funny because I have a nephew that's 12, and he's always saying, what the, instead. Because I'm not sure if he wants to curse, but he knows he's not allowed to curse, and so he keeps going, what the. So when I saw that, I might even have that copy in my collection somewhere. But for 30 cents, I thought that was funny. Here's a comic that I got. I didn't have. It was a free comic that they gave away back during Nancy Reagan's run of drug awareness campaign. I think it was in her campaign. New Teen Titans about drug abuse. One of my favorite artists too. I have quite a few favorite artists. I have, but for covers, and this guy actually does. I'm not sure if he did interior artwork. I don't think he did, but I am trying to collect his artwork if I can find it for cheap. On covers, and that's James Jean, Fables number 47. He did a long run on Fables. For those that you don't know, James Jean is a Taiwanese artist who he's kind of, in my opinion, he's an artist that did comic covers versus a comic artist that did art, if that makes any sense. So he became famous for some of his work for Prada, Atlantic Records, and then his run on Fables. He did a run on Green Arrow, which I have all of those covers. I almost have all of his covers for Batgirl. I'm getting close, and I'll show those either in this haul or the next haul. I'm trying to complete my run on the new X-Men. 155, I didn't have 136, and then 138, the Grant Morrison run. Very good story. I have read those actually. Again, from the 30-cent sale, X-23 number 3, number 2, and number 1. I think this is her most recent volume. I have these issues already, but I figure for 90 cents to get another copy of 1 through 3 was a decent price, particularly since I paid $4.99 for the first issue, $4.9, $12 for those first 3 issues that I already have, and here they are for 90 cents. These were 30 cents, and this was cover B for Batman number 44. That was leading up to the infamous wedding of Catwoman and Batman. And when I bought these issues, I did not have the variant cover. I only had the regular cover with Bruce Wayne and Batman. And then I don't know why. I didn't know there was a variant cover, but I went to a LCS on a trip and I saw this, but it was $6 now. So this comic was $2.99, so it was $6 at the time. The wedding issue had not come out yet, and so since I didn't have it, which I thought was kind of cool, as Catwoman, I bought it for $6. And so here I got 2 more copies for 30 cents each for 60 cents. So go figure. All right. So this next lot of comics I'm about to show are from multiple sales and trips, but I have them all together because like I said, I was trying to collect James Jean's run on Batgirl. I have a few already in my collection filed away, but these are the ones that I have purchased within the last probably 6 to 7 weeks, or at least 2 to 3 months. Probably the most expensive book was $1.75. Otherwise, the comics were either $1 or 50 cents or 30 cents. I do have a tale on one that was $1.75, which I'll tell you as I do it. So, Batgirl number 43, James Jean. Number 44, number 45. Now, this is probably the more sought after issue. It's a beautiful cover. I think this run on Batgirl is going to get its due soon, sometime down the line, and it will be sought after, kind of like the Adam Hughes run on Catwoman. Now, this book here does go for an easy $20. I looked on eBay earlier, maybe a day or two ago, and there's a few issues, but none are near mint for less than $10. But a lot of them are from there's not even a lot listed, but there are a few. But the majority of them are from out of country, Canada, UK. So they would be quite a bit of money for shipping. But the story is, while I was on vacation, I went to this shop and I found them on Google. And the the shop is just a cluster. I mean, it is so cluttered. The guy has thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of back issues. He is mainly a comic shop. He sells comics, trade paperbacks, graphic novels, superhero action figures. He sells manga, anime, comics, and then anime action figures. That's all he sells. Nothing else. No magic cards or Pokemon cards. Nothing like that. And so I went into the store. When I went in there, I was like, "Oh wow, this is getting a lot of comics." And I asked the guy if he had any dollar bins, and he said, "No, I don't do any dollar bins." It was just like right away, like he was insulted that I asked him. And so I was like, okay, all right. I said, okay. He goes, all the comics are priced as they are. And apparently he does a lot of conventions. And so he has a section of his store, which are the boxes of comics that he takes for his conventions. And then he has a wall that's probably got, I don't know, maybe 50 books on. And then all the other back issues. Now, I'll be honest, most of his comics in his regular back issues probably should be dollars because there's so much crap that was produced because he's been in business for over 25 years. I think he's actually more than that because he said he's been in business since the early 90s, so almost 30 years. So you can imagine the volumes of comics that he has that are worthless, right? Worth probably a quarter. And, you know, so I'm going through his books, and his comics are severely overpriced. I mean, significantly. A perfect example is he has the first appearance of Bishop in Uncanny X-Men 282 for $20. $20. Now that, to me, is a dollar find every day of the week. And I find it on the regular for $20. I mean, for $1. I wouldn't pay more than $1 for them. So, you know, I decided, and it's so cluttered. I mean, there's action figures, boxes of comics on top of his long boxes. So even to find this comic, I had to literally move 3 boxes of comics that are like in the diamond boxes that comics come in, as well as action figures off of that area just to get to the section of Batgirl. And because I know the James Jean is kind of under the radar, I looked there. I looked at Wonder Woman. I looked at Batman. His Batman issues were severely overpriced. His Amazing Spider-Man also significantly overpriced. And so he didn't have any really Adam Hughes covers. I don't know if they were in his convention boxes. I didn't look through all of them. Once I saw that Uncanny X-Men was $20, I was like, yeah, I'm not even bothering. And so this book here was a quarter over cover price, so $2.75. And but when I went up to pay, he said, "Oh, I'm having a 50-cent sale. Anything under $20 is half off." So I paid $1.45 for this book, which is a $20 book. Which I was kind of smirking that the guy's kind of he was kind of a jerk. That I got this book, semi-stealth buy, I guess, for $1.45. So that's my story on it. I've got multiple copies of this. I think it's a wonderful cover. James Jean, as I mentioned before, I think he's an artist that did comics. He doesn't do any more comic covers. He kind of reminds me of David Mack. David Mack is an artist that does comic covers. James Jean, he has a website, and he will have a work of art that he is doing, and he'll post it in stages as he's doing it. And then he has a date that he is going to sell copies of the print. It's called a 24-hour sale, for those of you who don't know. And in that 24 hours, he sells all the prints that are purchased on the website that day, in that 24 hours that he's getting ready to sell it. And then at the end of the 24 hours, once the 24 hours is over, that's the number of prints that he made. That's it. So it's not like some artists that will go, there's 2,500 prints of this piece of art. Could be 50 prints. It could be 1,000 prints. It could be 500 prints. And I think that's kind of cool. They're not super expensive. I've been following it for a little bit. I haven't found one that moves me to the point that I want to buy it yet. But I watch his website on a semi-regular basis because if I find something that I really like, then I think I'm going to buy one of those prints on a flash sale. So anyway, that's that story. So anyway, so I got that for $1.45, right? Is that right? Yeah. Maybe $1.75 is the right math. I got this one also for at the same store for the same price, probably about $1.75, number 47. I got this at another shop in the area for $1, number 49. I got 3 copies of 54, which I also think is a nice cover by James Jean. These were 30 cents each. Got this comic also at that store for $1.75. This is polybagged with a CD in it from, I think it might, I don't know what's on the CD. I know it's an advertisement for Sky of Tomorrow or something like that. It's that terrible movie with Gwyneth Paltrow and Jude Law that flopped. This is polybag, which I hate polybag comics because the bag itself is cheap. It's not acid free. I was tempted to take this out of the bag because I think it can destroy the comic. If the comic was probably more valuable, I might have taken it out, but I didn't. I got this at a 50 cent at the 50 cent sale, number 56, James Jean. And then I got 3 copies of number 57 for 30 cents. So that's 35 minutes. I'm going to end the haul there. Thanks for watching. That's my haul. We'll check you later. Peace.